If we were to compare 100 executive teams, we would find there's a wide variance in how sophisticated these teams are. We will find some operate at really low levels of sophistication. They are rather rudimentary. Most operate at moderate levels of sophistication. They are pretty standard. Only a small percentage operate at a really high level of sophistication. They are really dynamic vehicles. Do you know how sophisticated your organization's executive team is? I want to help you answer this question, but first, let me explain why asking and answering this question is so important, and point out some insights that are valuable to consider. When we are curious about the sophistication of our organization's executive team, we need to not just focus on their current sophistication level. We also should consider the environment they are operating within. For example, some organizations operate in rather stable, structured environments. They may not have many competitors, and getting from point A to point B is rather straightforward. While roadblocks may pop up, it is pretty clear how to adjust and move forward. In such environments, a highly sophisticated executive team is not necessarily needed. A rudimentary vehicle can navigate this environment just fine. But most organizations do not operate in such simple environments, particularly in the fallout of the COVID pandemic. Most organizations operate in environments where there is instability, complexity, and a lot of competition. In these environments, getting from point A to point B is much less clear and much more challenging. In these environments, a rudimentary vehicle just won't cut it. In order for an organization to be successful in such an environment, they need a much more sophisticated executive team. But let's be honest, the environments that organizations are operating within are growing in instability, complexity, and competition. Successfully navigating these environments requires that executive teams be extremely sophisticated and dynamic. So here is the real question. Is your executive team sophisticated enough for the current and future conditions your organization is operating within? As a leadership development expert, what I have found with almost every executive team I've worked with is that the sophistication of the executive team is lower than what is needed to successfully navigate the environment they are currently operating within or wanting to operate within. The sophistication of their executive teams may have been sufficient at some point in the past, but with growth of the organization or changing market conditions, they are struggling to effectively navigate their current landscape. Classic examples of this phenomenon include Microsoft before Satya Nadella, Disney Animation before Ed Catmull, and Ford before Alan Mulally. These iconic brands floundered within their complex environments until these organizations were able to upgrade the sophistication of their executive teams, often with very little turnover amongst the teams. Something else I have observed is that almost all executive teams see themselves as really dynamic and sophisticated vehicles, even if they are quite rudimentary. Surely, they are working hard, but they lack the context and ability to be fully self-aware of their actual sophistication. Would you like to assess the sophistication of your organization's executive team? Would you like to help your executive team awaken to their true level of sophistication so that they can make the appropriate efforts to become more sophisticated? If so, I want to help you out. I have a really easy and low-risk way to assess the sophistication of your executive teams. I use unique proprietary assessments, engage in interviews with key executive team members, and leverage my experience working with dozens of executive teams to evaluate the sophistication of your executive team. For a very reasonable cost, I will evaluate the sophistication of your executive team, or really any team in your organization, provide you with a comprehensive report identifying the strengths, weaknesses, and recommended areas of emphasis for increasing the team's sophistication, and develop a roadmap for how to go about upgrading the team's sophistication. If you're looking to elevate your executive team so that they can more effectively navigate your organization through its complex environment, let's connect and start your elevation efforts by assessing your executive team's current level of sophistication. This will help you gauge where they currently are and what you need to focus on to upgrade your executive team to become more dynamic and perform at a higher level. Let's make sure the sophistication of your organization's most important team exceeds the demands of the environment they are navigating.